And we're back. I wanted to start this video by picking my glasses up off the floor. And that's a good way to start out, right guys? Typical everyday life. Anyway, we talk about the 302 quite a bit on this channel. And it usually has to do with performance. But one of the things that doesn't get talked about too often is a low budget 302. Like the older ones that don't have forged pistons and all that stuff, which a lot of guys have. And this video also covers a 289. Any small block Ford, old school, flat tappet cam, low compression mostly. Because that's what most guys are going to have now. They're not going to have the high performance 289s and stuff laying around too often. So we're going to do this on the rule of thumb of you have maybe even a low compression roller motor with 8.5 to 1. Which, look these motors up for horsepower on Google. They're usually around 150 horsepower, 140, 170, depending on what head, depending if the piston's stitched or if it's like a flat top with a big open chamber head. So there's all different variables with that. That's why one engine will have more performance advantages than others. Some of the Ford motors in the mid 80s, mostly like an 85 engine I believe it was, had no valve reliefs, so you're very limited on the camshaft. Now there's ways you can put a high performance cam in there and get cam clearance, is by putting a thicker head gasket on the vehicle. But what happens when you do that is you're going to lose more compression, and the cam's not going to make it up. So you're better off using a thinner head gasket, using a low profile cam, something around 480 lift or whatever you can fit in that engine. That's up to you to decide. So there's different things you can do to boost horsepower. Now, one of the problems is this: you never know what the fella is capable of doing performance wise. One of the problems with the 302s, the older ones, or the we're going to say non-roller. Let's stick with that for a second, and then we'll move into the low compression roller motors. But they all have the same thing in common: why they have low horsepower and low compression. Low compression was to just be a thing with the fuel, where that was Ford's idea, I guess, for being able to run regular fuel in the vehicle. So that eliminates your worries for pinging and all that stuff. That's just one way of looking at that. They were not performance engines, that's for sure. The other thing would be, you have a camshaft that's about, on a rule of thumb, low 4s or mid 3s lift. And a lot of the 8 to 1 engines, the camshaft's only good till about 4,500 RPM. But here's the thing: if you have a roller engine that has 8 to 1 and it does have valve release, and let's say you can put a cam in there that's good till about 530 lift, then you have to worry about bleeding off more compression with the more duration and stuff you put on the camshaft. So there's a lot of variables. So I'm giving you these scenarios because you have to look things up and find out what your engine consists of. Why is it down in horsepower? So find out what you have, and then you can figure out why the motor only makes 130 or 170 horsepower, whatever it is. But here's the good part. You can take any of them engines, and you always think like this here in most cases. Well, what was happening if I rebuilt the whole engine? And I really don't have the money to do that, to do a motor how I want. Well, you can take stock factory parts and just do little things and get that engine to run really well. Now, if you have a car that you're just trying to go to car shows with and you just want a little bit more performance, that would be a very easy solution for you. Just to put a thinner head gasket on, take the heads to your machine shop, have them mill the heads, put a good valve job on it. You don't need anything real fancy, because start doing different angles and stuff on the valves with a low profile cam and stuff, you probably won't even see that. You might even hurt performance doing that. So I suggest just staying on a cost budget friendly thing. That's what this is about. If you had money to do performance stuff, you wouldn't be messing with this stuff in the first place. So I posted a video a couple weeks ago, and it had a car on the dyno. A few guys got upset because I didn't post the numbers, and the reason I didn't do that was for two reasons. It's not my car, and it's not fair to do that to somebody unless they give you permission to do it. Which in this case, the guy's a really good guy. He said I could post everything. I could give you his whole combination. I could pull the dyno sheet up and show you where he sent it to me, which I had planned on doing. But my fancy stuff that I have here, this phone, won't let me upload it. And that's all I have. I don't have any equipment, no computer to do any of the stuff you see other guys doing, uploading stuff and all that. Some guys have a way of knowledge to do all this stuff. I don't carry that with this computer stuff and all this late model technology here we have. I'm just an old school guy. But here's the thing. The guys that have these type of engines that would like a little bit more performance, they're always left out. They probably feel left out because they think, well, I can't, how much am I going to get out of this engine? This thing ain't never going to do what I want it to do. I'd like the car to run 12s or 11s. I might as well just get a whole different engine and stroke it and all that. And I really don't have the money to do that. Well, getting back to where I started this video, you don't need to. There's ways around all this stuff. That car I showed on the dyno, the numbers are posted in a comment on that video. And here's the thing. Dynos don't tell the truth. The numbers on that car are decent, very good for what we did. I told my friend when I did the heads for this car, I said, you have a lot left. I said, you just wanted the car to go in the 12s or the high 11s, and you have plenty to do that with. And he's already proven that. The car right out of the gate went like a 1260, and he doesn't really want a race car. This is just to go where if he's hanging out and goes to the track, he wants to have something that runs halfway decent. Or goes to a little car meet. He's not the slowest car there. And he likes to see the pants going through the gears and stuff like that, like most guys do. And it's a very clean GT car. It's full weight. No, it's not gutted. So that car, I don't know what it ran from the factory But I do know this, a lot of them cars ran 15s, mid 15s, some of them ran 16s. Because they only had, I looked that engine up, and it had 140 horsepower, I believe it was, when I looked it up. So, he's up to 313 or something like that, I think he said. Now, on a rule of thumb, a 3,000 pound car, which that is, his car is probably around 3,100. It's a convertible GT Mustang. A 1290 pass used to be, on a rule of thumb, 300 horsepower. So, and the torque line was flat across on this thing. He was very happy with it. He told me how the car felt, like extremely good in the seat of the pants. He said this thing gets it. So, in my way of thinking, regardless of what that dyno said, the car does exactly what we wanted the car to do. And then he made some changes after he got the car out and went to that 1260. He put a different carburetor on there and picked up another 9 horsepower, going from a 750 to a 650. Why would that be? Because it's low compression in most cases. 650 has a better signal in a lot of cases. A lot of the 650 carburetors are actually better for mid-range and low end. They'll be more responsive sometimes with a 650 carburetor, depending on how your jets and stuff are. But when you have low compression, there's a lot of factors, because you're not going to get the full advantage of any performance part when you're 8.5 to 1 or barely 9 to 1. Now, one thing we did, them heads that were on that engine were 67cc combustion chambers, and we put GT40 heads on it that I believe are 62. But I opened the combustion chambers up on them heads, which I forgot to factor in when I was talking to John about this. But see, here's the thing. Any engine that makes over 300 horsepower and you go from 140 horsepower, that's a good gain. You will see that dramatically in a car. Now, he didn't bother putting thinner head gaskets or anything on this. He has Felpro head gaskets, and I believe they were 40 thousandths or 42 thousandths gaskets, if I remember right. So if you really wanted to get technical and take one of these same combinations like he has and use the factory stuff, and he did put a custom cam in there. It's a flat tappet cam in that engine, and you can hear it on the dyno if you look it up. It sounds pretty good. You can tell it pulls up through the gears and pulls right up. I forget what they took it to on the dyno, but he told me that thing goes right to 7,000 if you push down on it. 7,000 RPM out of a low compression engine, and it's pulling and it's not flat. That's a good deal. Like I said, the torque line was insane on this, and that's what I was going for. I was trying to keep the heads very efficient, because I was doing these heads according to what he wanted done. One thing I try to do with my customers is find out what they're using the car for. Most guys just do a set of heads and that's it. They do everything, this, that, the other. I do the short turns different for an automatic car than I do for a stick car. Somebody's going to be turning 7,000 to the wood, racing the car. A street car, low compression, I'm not going to do them heads the same. So that's just how I do it. So the thing is with the dyno, he's very happy. Well, I see a lot of guys on YouTube most of the time, and they talk about a happy dyno, they talk about a stingy dyno. Here's the thing, all said and done, it doesn't matter if that dyno is happy or stingy, because the car is going to run the same no matter what that dyno says. With that engine, once you get it off that dyno, take it out to the track or on the street, the motor is going to do what it does. All it does is give you an idea how much horsepower it has and torque curve. And that's good for tuning and all that. Or it's just some guys like that stuff. But some guys get pulled way in over their head with that. They take it, and I've seen more disappointment out of that than I have people be happy. I've seen guys make 700 horsepower, and then they get the engine in a vehicle, and you figure it out with the weight to horsepower ratio, and the engine's 100 horsepower less than what it should be. There's a guy that races and has a performance channel right on YouTube here, and everybody's all excited about his engine that he did. It was a special engine with high dollar heads and all this stuff, and they showed the engine on the dyno, 700 some horsepower, and the guy has a truck, and that motor that made all that horsepower doesn't run any faster than the other engine he had in there that had 100 horsepower less, or whatever that engine had before. In that, it had less horsepower. And it's just one of them deals. Some guys, they try to play this stuff up, like, oh, we got a 700 horsepower engine here, and if you don't see anything on YouTube where they put that engine into a car, don't fall for all these high horsepower dyno pulls you're saying. There's too many guys doing them. They're all 800 horsepower, 700 horsepower, 650. And half these engines that you're saying, if you listen and really know a dyno, you can tell they're not really being pulled down in the power band and making the engine work. One guy that I really like on YouTube, he's my favorite guy on YouTube, he had his engine on a dyno, and that thing was loaded, and that thing, you could tell that motor wasn't having it. It's like pulling up, and you could hear that thing. But here's the good part about that. I said their real numbers he's getting, according to what I'm hearing, from what this old ears here say, here, these ears here tell me. I'll get it out one of these days. He took the car to the track, and that thing runs the number that it should be running very well into it, because the car is not a gutted car. It's like up in the mid 3,000 range with the, I think it's like 3,600 pound car. Car goes very low nines, I believe, and drives down the road once in a while, takes around the block. So that guy should be very happy when he sees his dyno numbers, because they're pretty close to being how it should be. But I see a lot of these guys, man, they're disappointed when they come off that dyno and get the engine into a car. It's like, wow, what happened? This thing should run 10s. Why is it in the high 11s? I've talked about this before. This is why I don't go by dyno numbers. Now, one thing I do like about a dyno, a lot of times the chassis dyno, to me, is more accurate. Most of these engines I see being tested are on a flywheel-based dyno. A chassis dyno, in my opinion, will show you more accuracy with the numbers. What I've seen in my time here. At least what I see around here where I live. We have guys that are very close to what it says on a chassis dyno. But most of the guys I know, they also use that to tune the vehicle, and they try to get things worked out on the dyno instead of going to the track and having a lot of problems. And that's what the dyno is really good for. If you have problems and you're trying to find things out, that's what the dyno is great for. If you're putting your car on there just to have bragging rights with a motor, to me that's the wrong thing to do. When your buddy's going to live in another state, he's going to say, well, my car made 650 horsepower, and your motor's bigger than mine. How come you only made let's say 40 horsepower less. They're not the same dyno. They're not the same anything. The guy that runs the dyno can mess that up. And some guys knows how to do this stuff, make it pretty close, and other guys, they just have a shop and they, whatever it is, it is. I hate to say it. But anyway, my point of getting back to all this, I always give you too many scenarios. I try to give you real life experiences when I talk. You can take any of these engines, low compression. You don't need a high dollar set of cylinder heads. You can just clean your heads up. And any of that factory stuff is good enough to go in the 12s or the 11s without putting a lot of money into the engine. You can use a stock short block. That's what that engine is in the Mustang on that shorty video I have. It's a stock bottom end 8.5 to 1 compression engine, just with the heads done, ported RPM intake I think's on it now, and we did have a ported accelerator I believe on there before, 650 carburetor, and he has a flat tappet custom cam as far as I know. So he's happy with this vehicle. That's all it comes down to. There's not a lot of money into it. He used all factory stuff, and he discussed all this with me ahead of time. So it's not like he did all this and then say, wow, I wish the car would go 10s. I'm only in the 12s right now, and he didn't do that. He's happy he reached the number that he wanted to reach right out of the gate. So now he thinks the car will win the 11s, and it's right there already. I don't want to say more than I'm supposed to about this stuff until I talk to him and he gives me the okay to say things. So that's why a lot of times I don't discuss dyno numbers. I have a lot of dyno numbers and flow numbers I could share. But here's the problem. After I tell you guys this stuff, where does it get you? It's not going to do anything but try to do two things. Have somebody say, there ain't no way them heads flowed that much, or there's no way that car made that much power with the head that flowed that much. So you're going to get debates out of it. That's why I don't show or tell very little stuff about the dynos or flow numbers. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up sometimes. If you ever want to see if a flow number makes any sense, ask an old super stock guy. I had a guy tell me about a year ago on one of the forums that the heads didn't flow enough to go 10s and 9s on a Mopar. I said, you better tell that to all the guys I knew back in the day that were doing it. They didn't have any of this stuff these guys have now. These guys today should be very spoiled with what you can get for a Mopar. The guys back in my day, they had to make the factory stuff work and know how to make it work. And most of the guys did, that I knew. I was just talking about a guy the other night. He had a car called Blue Magic down at ACO, and very nice guy. This is back in the 70s. That car went 1060s back then, full weight, wasn't even gutted out. It was a Cornet, I believe, like a 69, somewhere in there. Them cars aren't that light. The big block end of the car is probably 36 or 3,800 pounds. Some of the road runners were up near 4,000 pounds, I believe, 3,900, somewhere in there, some of them. I have a Mopar friend. He says a lot of them cars aren't as heavy as you think they are, but he's an honest guy. He's doing it. He'll tell you that something's on the light side or heavy side. But he also has cars that run very well. Little 4-cylinder Amis. Go out there and beat up on people. He had a buddy that had a turbo neon. That's on YouTube to this day. I think that car ran like 850s and a quarter. These are quarter mile numbers, I tell you guys too, not eighth mile. That's the problem. I forget I'm a quarter mile guy, and sometimes I'll say something runs 9s, and someone would think, well, 9s, that's not that great. because they're used to eighth mile times. I had to get used to eighth mile times. To me, eighth mile was something I just couldn't adapt to. I still have trouble adapting to it. To me, it's just, you have to take it what it is. You're lucky to have anything out there today with these tracks. And I always said, oh, eighth mile, I said, what's next? 60-foot dash? That's how I looked at the eighth mile. I'm sorry. Everybody's like, oh, you save money, eighth mile. Eighth mile can work to your advantage on the pocketbook with some guys, and other guys, they're better off going the quarter mile, depending on how much money they have in the vehicle. Some of these guys are better going out the back door because they have enough engine to do it. A lot of guys that have the eighth mile cars, they're actually beating them up harder to go the eighth mile with a small block, and they're just turning the crap out of them with a bunch of gear, 650 gear, things like that. So it all depends on the person. They go right around the circle with this stuff. Because you can debate it and argue about it, but you have to always let the guy have his opinion about stuff with these things. And if the guy said it's better for him to go to eighth mile and he likes it, then that's up to him. I'm a quarter mile guy. I always have been. I'm a quarter mile guy even if I get outrun on the top end. I've had a lot of stuff that I could beat people through the eighth with, but they would run me down the top because I never had a lot of stuff back in the day. Half my stuff, all my stuff basically was stock stuff. You're only going to get so much out of it. Another debate I had back in the day, I had a truck that weighed 4,000 pounds, and people would say, well, I didn't tell you to go to a 4,000 pound truck. Well, it's not a race truck, it's just my truck I drive. But I'm out here running it, and I'm willing to give people a shot because it ran decent. That's another truck I had, just like the 65 I have. That's what this truck's about. The one I have now, it's a clone, going to be a clone to the other one. Except this engine's a 460. My other one had a low compression 429 in it. 72 or 3 engine I had in that. Had 2 different engines in it. And they were done at 4,800. Same deal. But I had guys give me a hard time. Oh, they didn't want to hear how heavy it was. And then when we have the Mustangs, they'll say, oh, well, that car is light. So you can't win with this stuff. No matter what you do, if your vehicle runs decent and you outrun somebody, they don't want to hear it if it's heavy. And if it's a light vehicle, then they want to say, well, it's light. I had a guy just not too long ago on my channel, he goes, well, yeah, your car is light. Well, my friend's Vega was a lot lighter than our car at 2,200 pounds, and that car run 12s with a 350 on it. So do whatever you want with that. This can be debated all day long. All these factors with racing, you can talk and talk forever, and you can debate it. And somebody that has an opinion about certain things, if they're just using their opinion and not facts, they're going to be a big waste of time and energy trying to be realistic to them with stuff, put it to you that way. So anyway, guys, I just thought I'd do this little video about this, let you guys know that have one of these older engines or low compression engine that you can make them run just by doing little tricks to them. Get the piston, if it has the piston down the hole, you can take it and just get the block decked if you have the funds to do that. And if you don't, then you just do the other tricks of the trade that you can. Just make it better. Get the heads cut down 30 thousandths if you have to. But make sure you're willing to cut the intake with it. Don't get yourself in over your head. Listen to what I say either. Say, well, this guy said if I cut the heads 30 thousandths, I'll bring the compression up to 9 to 1. No. Find out what cc her heads are. You might need to take 5 thousandths off. You might not need to take anything off. You might have the same cc head that a roller engine has. So you have to find out what you have first before you do performance work to it and know what gains you're going to pick up. Now I will say this, if you're putting a power adder on, a turbo or a blower, you don't even have to do much to this stuff. You could even run, a lot of times you just run factory valves and everything. Now the valve train's heavy on the heads all the Ford heads. If you can ever upgrade the valve springs, that's always a good thing to do. You always want to make sure you have a good valve job too. You don't want to just put another pair of heads on and have it be where it has a leaky valve and stuff. And it's always good to have the heads milled, because you're dealing with heads that's had all these heat cycles ran in it for the last 30, 40 years, depending on what your engine is. 50 if it's 289. So it's good to get a nice fresh surface on them heads. That's one of my favorite things at the machine shop, is having the heads resurfaced and gone over. You can put a level across to all you want to, and I would tell you sometimes the head's warped, but a lot of times it don't have to be warped. A nice straight fresh finish on that head, you'd be surprised. It may stop you from blowing the head gasket. So that's something I like doing. There's a few things that I like to upgrade on these engines too. The stock oil pump shaft, I replace it with a milling oil pump. The timing chain gets replaced always, even if it's a roller motor. I go with a Cloy's most cases for that. True roller, not the cheap one. The true roller is like 90 bucks probably now, 120, something like that. Depends if you get the one with all the positioning degree notches in it. Some have 3, some have 9 different settings, I believe, or 6, something like that. The cheaper one that has 3 settings is fine for a stock replacement vehicle like you're doing. You don't want to degree the cam up more if it's only good to 4,500 RPM. So there's a lot of factors involved with this stuff. Getting cotton mouth because it's hot in here, and I have nothing to drink here with me. So I'm going to cut this video off. I hope this helps somebody out. I was going to have everything written down with John's combination on here and stuff, but it's all basic stuff. Nobody needs to do a copycat engine anyway. You just need to do the right stuff. Like I said, if you have an engine that has 150,000 miles on it, you want to go over things anyway. You just don't want to push your luck with it. I try to tell people to do things the right way, even if they're doing things on a budget. I see some of these guys on YouTube, they go about things the wrong way in a lot of cases. Some do a lot of good things. Some of the guys do some stuff that I wouldn't even do if I had to make the motor run and get me home from work. So I'll put it to you that way. Another thing is with these low budget builds, depends on the transmission that you have. If you have a old style 3-speed automatic, you're limited on how fast the vehicle is going to go with the gear ratio. If you have a 5-speed or oval drive transmission, AOD, you could go with more gear. If the engine turns 5,500, you can still put like a 411 gear in that thing. It's going to still be good. You think, well, am I going to run out on the top end? 1/8 mile you won't. 1/4 mile might be a little tight, but the low end is always going to be better for you, especially with a small 302 low compression engine. You want as much snap down bottom as you can get. One thing I will say is this: you don't want to retard the cam on a low compression motor. A lot of them engines come retarded from the factory. I had one, a Fairmont, that I took. It was bone stock. It wouldn't even power brake, and it finally let loose the timing chain, let loose in it. So I had no choice to put a timing chain in it. So I just went and put a factory over-the-counter timing chain in that, because it was just a car I was driving. I wasn't keeping it. So in this case, I did just put a stock replacement Advanced Auto or one of them over-the-counter timing chains in that. But what I did, I ordered it for a 67-289, and that advanced the cam up in it. which that thing would turn the tires like crazy. But getting back to what I was telling you, it didn't have a lot of top end. It went to like 4,500 real quick, and then it was done. But the car still picked up like 2 seconds compared to how it was. It went from like a 18-second car to like a 16:30, something like that. It's a big difference, 2 seconds. You might say 16:30. It's only a 2-barrel station wagon. It's not a race car. It's just a factor of what that picked up, just putting a timing chain in it and advancing it up. So these are all things you have to use common sense with. Sometimes I'll tell you guys something and it will sound like I'm contradicting myself because there's too much to cover here. And the way I do something is going to be different than the way you might do it. I will say this, I try to give you guys the most knowledge I can that I've experienced, that I know works. I don't want to tell you something that maybe hurt what you're doing here. I'm always concerned about that when I do these videos. I've mentioned intakes before, and I had one fellow, he goes, oh, I got that intake. Oh, and he was all upset because I mentioned an intake that I didn't care for, that everybody else loved, which was, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just when I compared the two intakes on my vehicle, the other intake that I liked was a better intake. So these are all factors in my mind here when I do these videos. I want to make sure that I'm not telling some young kid something that's going to get them in trouble, that's maybe starting out and don't know that much. He has no experience with this stuff. So always find out when you're listening to some guy on YouTube, if the guy knows what he's talking about, and don't just listen to one person. You investigate this stuff. Get a book and you look up cam timing, you look up things like this here, and if you can lock the ignition out and things like that, because there's other things I do that I don't discuss with all this stuff. So you might do something with your cam and degree it in a certain way, and I got my distributor locked out, or not locked out, or where it pulls timing out or adds timing. We have one distributor, we were adding timing in to the vehicle as it went down the track. We didn't tell everybody how we had that set up because it was on nitrous and, you know, things like that. Now I wanted to tell you guys this. Adam has a video on his channel, and I've had it posted, and it's the green Mustang that he calls a green gangster. One of them videos where I said Merry Christmas on there, you can look it up if you're not familiar with it. That is a bone stock 302 on a 150 shot of nitrous, if I remember it. I think it was actually 130, but I'm not gonna argue with jet spreads. Adam knows more about it than I do. Some guys told him that it was I think Adam said 130. No, somebody else said it was 150. Adam has his own way of doing jet spreads with nitrous, and it doesn't really matter if you're going to be that piddly over a car, a stock vehicle going 1040, then you'll just have to weigh that out yourself. A lot of times when I do these videos, the guy will pick up on something totally out to left field than the point I'm trying to make with stuff. That happens quite a bit. I've seen it happen on another channel. A guy is making all these points with stuff, and another guy gets on there and totally missed exactly everything what that guy was trying to talk about. And the guy even said on there, he goes, well, that's not what I was saying. Well, 99% of the other people knew that, just that one fella. But that one fella can get really ruffle your skin sometimes. That's just how it goes doing these YouTube videos. So anyway, guys, I wanted to just do this video here. If you ever have any questions that I can help you with something, and Adam, he tries to help when people ask him questions. He's been really busy lately. A lot of stuff going on, and personal life here, and We do what we can to help people. That's why we do these videos. But I will say this here for closing. If we don't cover something, we're not hiding anything in most cases. It's just that sometimes we can't cover everything that everybody's wanting to see. And there's a reason I don't cover things where, as a customer, don't want me to show it. So I have to be fair. I cannot do that to somebody that don't want their numbers put out there, or talk about a vehicle that they don't want to be talked about. A lot of these guys are out there and they race for money and things like that. So these are just scenarios I'm giving you. There's a reason behind all this, is my point when I say or do stuff. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. And with that, I want to tell you thank you for watching. If you think this video helps somebody, pass it on. Maybe help a buddy out that's building a car. And it needs to help me out a little bit with sharing my stuff and give me thumbs up, because YouTube's not giving me any motivation to do this stuff anymore. They're not pushing my videos out, and everybody tells me you have to say like and subscribe. I hate doing that, but it's not putting my videos out without people sharing them or thumbs up and conversation from what everybody else tells me. And I don't like telling people to share something if they don't want to share it. If you like something and you think your friends need to see it, you're going to automatically do that. You don't need me telling you that. But YouTube is not doing me any justice, I will tell you that. I'm going to do another video about that one of these days, I think. So anyway, guys, there you have it. And we're going to take time to tell you thanks for watching. And I appreciate all you guys taking that time out of your day to do that. Anyway, take care. Stay cool if you're in one of these places where it's been very hot lately, like I am. And be careful out there. Don't overdo it in the heat, guys. Especially you guys that have jobs working outside. God bless everybody.